And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. 888-659-3727. Great to be here live. Have not been on the air live for I think at least 2 weeks. And I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to apologize for having to go out of town. What is that noise? That might be Joe Tillman, man. I just lost his feed. Anyway, let's try to figure that out. 888-659-3727. We are live from Los Angeles. Let's see if I could hook back up with Joe Tillman. Apparently, we lost his feed, and that's a whole thing, by the way, for me to try to make this happen while I'm live on the air. But if you're new to the broadcast, I'm going to try to do this while I'm speaking to you and giving you my opening. This is the Hair Loss Show. We are here usually each and every week trying to provide you guys with truly objective information about anything and everything hair loss. I'm a consumer advocate for men and women dealing with hair loss. I am the author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss. I'm a guy who unfortunately has been dealing with his own hair loss for about 3 decades. But if you're watching me for the first time, I have to enter a password while I'm doing this. If you're watching me for the first time and you're thinking to yourself, wait a second, this guy seems to have hair. Well, you know what? I do. I'm very lucky. I've been able to slow the progression of my hair loss using FDA-approved products. I kind of pull the Trump the early years comb-over thing, and I paint the back of my bald spot. That's how I live my life. But I'm 50 years old, and I've been able to do this by not making many of the mistakes that most guys, unfortunately, make, especially during the initial throes of their hair loss. I was able to somehow have the wherewithal. I can't hook up with Joe again. I was somehow able to have the wherewithal to kind of step back and realize early on that this entire industry, for the most part, especially back when I started dealing with hair loss in the late 80s, was a complete sham. 99% of all products being sold that claim to stop, prevent, or treat hair loss just don't work. The vast majority of hair transplant surgeons, I'm sorry to say, who are hanging up a shingle and claiming they are performing state-of-the-art surgical hair restoration are not. As treacherous as it was when I started in this field, because of the way the internet has grown and because of the way the market has grown, it's becoming worse again. We've made tremendous strides. As an author, in this field, I am the most read author in the world on the subject of the prevention and treatment of hair loss. More people have been helped by my books than by any other volume ever published. And we still have only scratched the surface. I got to try to get Joe back on. Sorry, guys. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm logging into a separate computer that will give me a separate Skype feed so that I can then get Joe back on the air. Let's see if this works. And I'm doing this all while I'm trying to get my opening done. And you guys might as well be part of this experience, this pain in the ass experience of running this whole operation by yourself. Joe's not, he's not answering, so we'll see what happens. So anyway, look, if you're new and if you were just dealing with hair loss for the first time, if you're starting to go through the initial throes of hair loss and you're going online and you're looking through Google ads and you're searching hair transplants and hair restoration, or you found some guy who has found a cure for hair loss and he's writing an e-book and selling it from the basement of his parents' home on a blog, please take the time to listen to what we have to say. This truly is, in my view, your only safe place. I'm here to give you completely objective advice on anything and everything hair loss.
Hi, this is Joe.
Listen to
I'm
this.
not available right now.
This is what I'm dealing
leave
with.
a message, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks.
My partner in crime is not available. I have to leave a message. Jesus. Anyway, we got a full board. I will continue to try to call Joe back and see if we can make this happen. But if we can't, for some reason, then it's going to be just you and me. Phone number is 888-659-3727. That is 888-659-3727. Give us a call if you have any questions, concerns about your hair loss, or if you just need to vent. That's what I'm here for. We will do our best to guide you in the safest possible direction when it comes to anything and everything hair loss. Sorry, guys. Major distraction. And what I'm going to do in the interim is I'm going to take a phone call. I'm going to see who this is. And if I could somehow connect to Joe Tillman, who is live in our TBT studios in Vancouver, we're going to make that happen. Joe, you there? No, not working. All right, let's get to the phones. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Love the show. Keep on doing what.
Oh, thanks, man. Who's this?
This is Doug from Chicago.
Doug from Chicago. What's happening, man? Having trouble hooking up with Joe Tillman. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, what's going on? I mean, I know what you guys...
Well, you have no idea what... I am a one-man band here. You know, if this was somebody else, they would have their producer or their associate producer or some other, some intern taking care of this shit. Okay, there he is. Let's see if I can make this happen. But because I do this, and I actually prefer to do it the way that I do it, I have to take care of everything. While I'm
when you were on terrestrial radio, did you had everyone take care of everything?
Yes,
for you?
All I had to do is come in. Most of the time, I was probably a little hungover, and I would just walk in. All I had to do is adjust my mic levels and my headset, and I was on the air.
Do you miss that, or do you prefer this?
I actually, I prefer this, to be honest. I love having complete control. I hate the fact, and God forgive me for saying this, but allowing idiots to basically be in control of your world it's the worst. I would go into a studio and I felt like my hands were tied. Let me see if I can get Joe on. Because there he is. All right, Joe.
Okay.
Now you're going to be punished. I'm potting up for a second. My hands would be tied because I had no control of anything. I didn't know how to run my own board. I didn't know how to take care of my own clips. I didn't know how to do my own bumpers and breakers. I didn't know how to work any of the equipment, which is the way most radio guys are. We're not paid to do that. We're paid to speak over a microphone. But having the ability to do this myself, I mean, it's a great experience. Pain in the ass, but it's a great experience.
It's kind of comparable, I don't know. I know that with hair transplantation, the old guard is kind of fighting the change that's happening now with radio. Is it the same?
The radio's dying.
The future.
First of all, and that's an interesting question, and we'll get back to hair in a second. When I first started, I was one of the first guys to actually stream my program live on the internet when I was on the radio. And at the time, my people in radio didn't give a shit. They let me stream everything, including commercials. I didn't hear a peep. It was like it was a joke to them. And then, about 4 years in, one of the program directors, I'd already moved to Los Angeles, and my program director at the time, or was it I think it was the general manager of the station, was like, "Look, you can't we're not getting any money for the commercials that are airing on the internet, so you can't air your show. So I stopped doing it. I would just put, certain clips on. They kind of caught on. But they were fighting it the entire way. Now radio's dying. I mean, stations are they're falling apart. They are not, DJs, guys who are making 7 figures are now, if they're making $60,000 or $70,000 a year, they're lucky. People aren't buying airtime on radio.
Wow. So it is a dying. Radio is practically dead then.
Well, this is the way that I look at it. It's just an old medium. It's the format itself is not dying. Talk radio itself is not dying. But I listen to programs directly through my iPhone. I just connect it to my Bluetooth in my car, and I'm listening to the Tom Leykis show, or I'm listening to local radio from different markets all over the country. There's no need for that particular device. I still have a radio in my house. It's kind of like it's a relic. I just look at it. It's actually kind of funny that I just save it because I'm never going to use it.
Like a VHS player or a cassette player.
Exactly. So it's not that the medium is dying. It's just that the apparatus itself. And you have to realize the apparatus has been around since before television. So well over 100 years now, I think. So. It's just new technology. That's it. But the old radio model where people are trying to sell airtime and trying to sell commercial spots and all that shit, that is dead.
That's too bad in a way. My dad back in the 40s and 50s, he remembers listening to, radio shows like detective shows and the Green Hornet and all that kind of stuff. Kind of cool.
Listen, very cool stuff. But let's face it, we've evolved. And this is the new medium of communication. And listen, don't you think it would be much easier for me to just sit behind the mic, not have to shellac my hair with the insane amount of hairspray and not be on camera and just do,
The camera is great. The clarity, I don't know how you guys get the clarity you get compared to other internet broadcasts that, look kind of fuzzy, like there's a gauzy film over it, but you guys get a real clear picture somehow. You must use expensive equipment, or I don't know.
I appreciate that. We do. We also have a little bit of an inside formula thanks to the guys from Queen's Network. They were actually the first, them and Leo Laporte, to really produce high quality, HD quality live video on the internet. And it's not easy. And yes, my equipment is expensive. It took me. I started building my studio in 2008, and I just keep adding different pieces. And sometimes shit breaks, and you got to buy more stuff. But we're going to be doing 1080p soon, so you'll be able to watch this on a 60-inch LED television, and it's going to be crystal clear.
And your show is needed now more than ever. I mean, the industry is just crazy right now.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And while I have you, I'm not going to punish Joe Tillman anymore. He's back. Joe, man.
Man, you wouldn't believe what just happened.
I believe it because I'm doing a live show. I have to go into my second computer remotely to try to hook up with you. It's impossible because then my password is like 90 letters long. And I have to try to remember that while I'm talking. Well, I got a full board of calls.
We're just firing up, and for the viewers watching, I have my MacBook Pro here in front of me, so I can monitor the show. But then across my office in my studio, I have a Windows PC that we run our Skype connection through. It runs my camera, my microphone, and so on. So right as the intro finishes, I notice the little circle thing on my screen on my Skype machine starting to circle, saying it's starting to think about something. I'm like, what's going on? And then suddenly it goes into Windows Update. Unannounced. No warning.
Well, I will tell you look a lot clearer. So whatever it is, it's good. It's good. So listen, we got a call on the line. I
just wanted to thank you guys. I got my teeth fixed. I got the implants.
Oh, you did? Done. That's right. You're the guy with the teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the guy with the fucked up teeth.
Well, not anymore.
No, I feel great. I mean, my oral surgeon said your energy is going to go way up. You're going to feel like Superman because of all the bacteria that was in my bloodstream. I'm thinking I should maybe get a physical to see if it did any damage yet to my heart or because it possibly could have.
Well, you could get a physical, sure. I mean, it's never a bad idea. Again, let me preface this by saying I'm not a physician, but you'd be surprised at how fast and how your body heals once that shit is removed. And people who neglect their teeth, they have no idea how it affects their overall health. Right. So I'm glad you got it done. And also, I mean, it must be incredible to look in the mirror now and have a great smile. And like I'm telling you, man, if you have a choice between your hair and your teeth, you take care of your teeth. Jacked up teeth, man, there's no coming back from that.
A girl doesn't want to kiss a guy with slimy teeth.
Well, also all right, girls aside, jobs, everything. You know, it's just living, just ordering coffee. You know, just dealing with the barista.
And your personality changes. I mean, when you have bad teeth, you don't smile, so people, you know, their first impression is,
look, dude, I'm a freak about my teeth. Even since I was a kid, I got braces because my parents couldn't afford to get me braces. I didn't really have very crooked teeth. And when I say they couldn't afford to get me braces, they probably could have put it on some sort of credit, you know, or something. But I guess they didn't think it was that important. So as I got older, my teeth started to move a little bit more, and they were shifting and shifting. I'm like, you know what, fuck this. I'm going to get braces. I was 35 years old walking around with a full face of braces because I wanted to get that correction done as quickly as possible as opposed to doing Invisalign. So Tom
Cruise did that later in life, which I was surprised because I thought he had pretty good teeth, but he got braces when he was older.
So I did that,
did you
man.
Ever see him in Outsiders?
Yeah. Actually, he had really bad teeth in Outsiders. And I did that, and then I had them whitened, and then there were like a couple of teeth that were short, and I had veneers put on the teeth that were not great. I walk around now, man, and I just feel like $1 million. It was the best investment I ever made. And it was a gradual thing. I was lucky I really didn't have terrible teeth, but they would have been bad by now at this age if I didn't take care of them. So congratulations, man. And listen, we got some other callers.
Thank you.
If you don't have any questions and you just want to thank us, I appreciate the call, man. I'm glad you're doing well.
I do have one question.
All right.
My hair was looking really good, and, you know, I went to a barber. It was a hairdresser, like a Supercuts kind of place.
Yeah.
I told the lady, you know, I like to wear my hair kind of like you. I like to have the bangs down to, you know, my eye level.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's very insulting. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
That's a compliment.
I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
hey, anytime someone mentions my hair, I get my hackles up.
Well, I like, you know, having, you know, longer hair on, you know, like if you wear it goes down to your eyebrows or hits your eyelashes. I told her to keep my bangs, and then when I look in the mirror, she chopped off everything to like an inch long. Like I look like she put a bowl on my head or something.
Dude, I'm telling you, my poor, and he's not a hairdresser. I mean, I guess he is a hairdresser, but he's a barber. My poor barber, man. I mean, he must have to take a Valium before he cuts my hair because I stop him midstream. You know,
I wish I did something. I wish I said something.
No, I actually pay him extra because, first of all, if he cuts the top too short, I'm bald. That's it. I can't do the cover up with the paint. So I'm done. You know, emotionally, it would take 3 months for that to grow back.
So what do you tell them when you want to like keep it like it's getting unruly and you want the sides and back?
Well, I've been going to the same guy for over a decade, so he knows exactly what I need. But I still watch every movie he makes, and it's just like, look, this is how I have to wear my hair. Believe me, if I could, I would probably comb my hair straight back, and but my hairline is not. It's stronger on this side than it is on this side, so I'm able to kind of comb it over. I spray it tight. I feel very fortunate. But I just, you know, he just knows me by now, you know, and he laughs. Everyone in the place laughs. I have a little chair in the back. Everything's got to be private, you know. So.
The thing is, you can't really put a price on that to have someone that knows exactly what you need, how you want it, and knows what to do before you even walk in. I mean, that's what I have. And
yeah, but he's getting old now. I'm afraid he's going to drop dead. He's in good shape. You know, and like I send them like healthy baskets for Christmas and stuff.
Leave them brochures and stuff.
Yeah, you know, like I'll pay for
old school barber.
Yeah, I would pay for a trainer for this dude just so he sticks around for another decade.
Barbers are a dying breed too in Chicago. There's not many old school barber shops. It's all you know, salons or.
This guy has a barber pole. Okay.
those are disappearing, barber poles. You don't see them many places.
Well, listen, dude, I'm glad you're doing well. I'm sorry about your haircut. We got to take some.
I will grow back.
Yeah, and give us a call. Let us know. I mean, you just got the new teeth, so give us a call. Let us know how it's how it's affecting your life. If it's been really obviously it's going to be positive right off the bat. But
yeah, I feel tremendous relief and just energy within the first couple of days after I had it done. I feel 100% better.
All right, man. Well,
so any of you guys out there with fucked up hillbilly teeth, go to your oral surgeon and get it fixed.
Oh, and dude, get that fixed before your hair. Believe me.
I agree.
Hair second. Teeth first, hair second. Dude, thanks for the call. Good luck.
Thanks.
All right, take care. Phone number is 888-659-3727. Real quick, you know that I went to the ARTAS user meeting in Laguna Niguel this last week, I think it was. The week at, when was it?
It was last week.
It was last week. God, I've been so busy. I don't know what day it is.
We both have. It's crazy.
And I have to say it was a really great meeting. What I like about that meeting, as opposed to the IAHRS meetings, and I think I mentioned this to you before, is it's not like a Turkish bazaar. You're not walking around where people are trying to sell you punches and this and that and the other thing and laser combs and laser hoods and trying to sell some sort of marketing stuff. I mean, it's all about the device, and it's all about the science of robotic surgical hair restoration. Now, obviously, there's always going to be some marketing stuff involved. Yeah. People are going to be talking about their practices. I was lucky enough to be invited to speak about the patient's perspective, and I have to say, what I found interesting, and I've told you this, I am still getting calls and emails from people, like guys from Spain, this guy from Brazil. I mean, it was almost as though. And we talk about this stuff on the show every week. It's common sense. But to some of these guys, it was like I was explaining how to split the fucking atom. That's how I felt. I mean, they came up to me like it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and all I did was tell them the truth.
Well, sometimes that's what it takes to open people's eyes, because a lot of these guys aren't in a position where they're told the truth, or if they are told the truth, they're not told the truth by someone that has any sort of authority. Like, it's the same thing of like when you're working on a project for so long or being involved with something for so long with the same group of people, if someone from outside comes in, a third party, and makes an observation, it's like a revelation.
Yeah.
It's like
no, and I'm just being a little bit I'm not obnoxious, but I just thought it was. I found it fascinating. Now, the guys that I've worked with for a long time who know me, they know all this stuff.
Yeah.
But it was the newer guys, and I had this one guy who's brand new in the field, and he came up to me and said, "Listen, out of every talk, he actually said he was on the edge of his seat, and I was getting the hook." Because they didn't give me my full time. I only got about 20 minutes as opposed to 30 minutes. I had a lot more to say. But anyway, let's take a phone call, 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from? Hello.
Hey, Spencer. Is this Spencer?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Dr. Charles.
Hey, Dr. Charles. How are you?
Dr. Charles,
fine,
welcome.
Listen, it was great seeing you at the meeting, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a little smaller, actually, for an artist meeting compared to, because I was at the first one 4 years ago, and we had 7 doctors sitting around a little round table in Denver.
Yeah.
And because we were one of the first 7 doctors to have the robotic device, and it grew a little bit each year. And this year we had over a couple hundred people there, not all doctors necessarily, but staff and whatnot. But it's a very intimate meeting, and there's not as much sales going on like you said at an IAHRS conference, and it's really just about just helping each other out, trying to figure out the best way to utilize the device and to use it in your practice properly.
No, and there were definitely some interesting talks for sure. And I have to I say some of it tongue in cheek, something listen, I'm not a physician, I'm not an academic, so I'm going to fall asleep, when I'm watching or listening to some of the stuff. But I think for the most part, it was what was being said was pretty compelling. And I absolutely, you know how I feel about this. I absolutely believe that robotics, whether it's ARTAS or another device, is the future of this field. And you obviously had the foresight, Dr. Charles, to get involved early on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I'm skeptical with a lot of stuff because I've bought and sold lots of different lasers over the years and tried different devices, and nothing ever really panned out too much. But when I went to Denver to Dr. Harris's office to kind of really take a good look at this and see what was going on, I knew right away that this was the way this company was running their business and the way they were conducting themselves and the research and development that was involved in this, that this was here to stay, and it's gonna just keep going and going.
Well, here,
as you saw, they just briefly touched upon the next phase. They have this is almost like an Apple phone.
Yeah.
And they have phases in mind, kind of pre-planned. Now, they don't necessarily always go exactly the timing based on the development and the research, but they have a long-term goal. And at some point, this robotic device, the ARTAS, is going to have the ability to do almost the entire surgery.
I know
with the aid of a doctor, running the machine,
right,
and a technician. But and there is going to have to be some medical personnel involved. But the accuracy of using this device is going to really take it to another level.
Well, here's what I like about it. And as you probably know, I think you know this, I was initially approached by some people in 2011, Sarah Wasserbauer, Jim Harris, and some other guys from the company, and just kind of talking to me about the device. And we did the first live robotic surgery online with Jim Harris. I could not get behind the machine at the time. Now, again, I'm just a layman, but just from what I was seeing, I didn't think it was ready for prime time. And because I wasn't a physician, I didn't need to pick one up to learn how to use it. It wasn't working, in my view, as well as guys who really understood how to do FUE. But from the beginning, I thought, you know what, they will eventually get this. So then when I was approached again in 2000, I think it was the end of 2013, I was invited out to San Jose. I took a look at everything, and I was like, holy shit, they are actually getting this. It was like day and night from 2011 to mid 2013.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say there's a real big learning curve. I mean, I have to admit when they first brought that machine in my office, and I had my staff, I picked a certain part of my staff to become associated with the machine and learn the machine, and it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
I could see the look on their face, like, Doc, this is not going to work. There's no way we're going to learn this, and it's just too complicated. And you do cases and you learn it good, and now I think that my staff is just so proficient at this device. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of guys threw in the towel early, saying that it's not as good as and basically what people are doing is they're kind of adopting. And Joe, feel free to chime in, but this. They're adopting this Turkish model, which has been created, where you're just hiring technicians to do the entire surgery. And whether you're using a neograft or most of these guys now are using either manual punches or motorized punches, they're not doing most of the surgery. And it's easier just to set the patient up. With the ARTAS, it takes time. And now as things evolved, and I was talking to Alan Bauman about the 8X, which is there's been some incredible changes.
Yeah, I have the new software. I was one of the first doing some of the prototypes and helping them out with that.
Right, and one of the major really things, like your staff were resistant because it took more time. You had to set the patient up. Every time you wanted to make a new grid, or after a couple of grids, you had to stop. You had to move the patient. You had to change the grid. And the machine wasn't able to get around certain areas, like under the occipital region and around the sides as well. And that's all changed. Maybe you could explain it a little bit.
Well, I mean, I think that when they first come out with an upgrade to the software, they've gone from the 4X to the 5X. They keep moving up. Kind of like an Apple phone keeps, as soon as they come out with the 6, 6 months later they come out with the 6S.
Right.
And so the speed of the machine focusing, they changed the camera system, so there's not as many angles necessary to obtain proper views. As far as to do the 3D hair studio and make this the three-dimensional figure of the patient's scalp and their hair loss, you only need 2 photographs now. The person needed to take 8 photographs. You had to go through multiple screens and checking off the nose and the ears and the location and try and remap the person's face. It was really complicated. It took a long time, and I didn't even trust my staff doing that. Now
Dr. Charles,
it can be done in 5-10 minutes now. It's really fast.
Dr. Charles, when you're talking about this, can you just kind of give a synopsis of what the challenges were as you saw them as the development of this machine progressed? Because you're one of the first to have it, so you have a clear look at how it's improved. I love your analogy of the iPhone updates. I think that's really, really accurate to compare it to. But what were some of the initial challenges? You're saying that now it can get into these areas with less trouble, faster.
The initial challenges, I can go over some of those. I mean, the initial challenges are very initially when you first the machine is just getting your staff to accept it. If you have staff that's internally, mentally reluctant, it's going to be difficult. I know some doctors who they get approached by their staff afterwards saying I think that we're faster and we do the patients the better cases using manual and if you stick with it and they get more proficient at it, then I think they do realize that it's actually a better way to go, because my real reasoning for switching over from manual, I was using either the ARTAS safe device or I had a Cole unit also. And I got pretty good at it. I have to say, I was, pretty quick. But when I really studied the graphs that we were getting from the first hour compared to the second hour and compared to the third hour, there was a tremendous drop off in the quality of the graphs. Yeah. I don't care how young, how healthy, how good a shape you're in, how good eyesight you have. There's a fatigue factor when someone's doing it by hand and you're bending over someone's head in a chair. There's a fatigue factor.
But that's the thing. You're a guy who's young and who's actually incredibly fit. I can't imagine guys who are you got some of these guys who are 7 years old hustling hair.
I have no idea how they're even considering doing it. Well, that's the thing. These are the people who are getting approached by Neograph saying they're like, I really can't do that for hours. And then you get a company like I won't even mention names. Some of these other companies that are talking these doctors into getting the machine because they're showing how some of the profits that can be made. They're showing them some numbers on a piece of paper, and then they're saying, "Don't worry, we'll send some text over to you. We'll do it for you."
Right. Well, I will tell you though. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's one thing, but even worse than that is when they start selling it to chiropractors and dental guys and people who are not even hair transplant doctors and saying, "Don't worry, we'll do it for you." Because now you have people who are techs that are designing hairlines and making medical decisions that aren't even doctors, and that's where the real trouble has gotten to.
Well, it is, and it's happening, but I mean, it's rampant. And I say this, and I've said this. I just did an interview with Dr. Paul Rose. And
he's him and I are I'm working with the Florida State legislature to try and make some laws, because unfortunately in Florida the laws are very gray,
right?
And they don't specifically say whether or not a tech can score the skin or not, make an incision. Because basically, if you're running a machine that's making if you're holding a handheld device, it's like a drill, a little hand drill, and you're making little holes, you're making incisions in the skin.
Right.
And really, we feel that should be done by a doctor. And a lot of states actually have that. In the state of New York, if you got caught doing that, you lose your license.
Well, in the state of New York, you could have a physician's assistant or a nurse practitioner do it as well. But not a technician that you're paying $15, $20, $30 an hour. These people have medical experience. They're trained, and they're able to cut the skin. They're able to prescribe medication.
Right, and I know the state of Florida, they're taking a real good look at that too. So I think a lot of states are going to start looking at some of the states like New York who have more specific guidelines on who can do this and who can't.
Right.
It's going to make a lot of people have to change the way they're practicing, because a lot of practices who are counting a significant proportion of their income based on what these technicians are doing, and all of a sudden you're going to have to hire some other either do it yourself or hire a nurse practitioner or a PA,
right.
Even to find one that can do that well and do it well is another whole story.
Well, I will tell you what
narrows the field considerably.
But I will tell you this. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but I think it was a direct response to you guys going to try to get this piece of legislation passed. Neograph is now taking out ads looking for PAs and nurse practitioners.
They know what's coming down the road. Absolutely.
Right. So I mean, but in a way, I think that's positive. I mean, you haven't even
guys who are doing NeoGraft are going to have just recently bought in the ARTAS because they know that's happening too.
Right. Right,
so and the people from ARTAS like it too.
Well, of course, because all of a sudden, then that $125,000 machine costs them a hell of a lot more because they're going to have to pay people a real salary because these people have the right credentials. So it's going to change.
Right. And I'm just concerned about bad results. I just don't want the whole field to take a hit as far as what we can do for people because of doctors or dentists or chiropractors and phonies, doing the surgery, making some money for a little while, but then 6 months later, 12 months later, when the results of these cases are coming out and people are unhappy and going online and saying, this company, that company, bad results.
Doc, listen, in 2009, Ed Epstein, or 2008, whenever Ed Epstein was the president of the IAHRS, he contacted me and he said, listen, Spencer, what can we do about this? This is happening with the NeoGraft and other devices. What do you think we should do? I gave him a list and told him exactly what needs to be done if you want to prevent this and make sure that patients are really going to be, in the safest possible hands. And part of what I provided him was, you guys as individuals have to put something on your own websites, making a declarative statement against what was happening in the field and how things were evolving. And then Ed came back to me and said, you know what, everyone's kind of afraid to be sued and, we can't do that. So then, last year, Sharon Keene tried to do her best by putting out a declarative statement on the IAHRS website, but nobody goes to the IAHRS website. And the entire, and the horse was out of the barn. It could have been stopped years ago. So, in my view, and again, I'm not saying it's your fault personally, because I think that you would probably, if Ed would have approached you, you probably would have been like, okay, let's do this. But the majority of the society was too shit scared. And what I don't understand about that is, you guys have the right to speak your mind. And if this company would have tried to sue you, you guys would have been able to file anti-SLAPP motions, and you would have won. It would have been an easy victory. Plus, you guys, the IAHRS does have a little bit of money, to fight this stuff. So anyway, that's why all this stuff is happening. It could have been stopped, but you know what? Now we're here. And that's another reason why I like the ARTAS so much.
The real, probably the reality of it is you got some of the good old boys that are part of the IAHRS that probably jumped on that bandwagon, and their friends didn't want to throw them under the bus.
Yeah, I think that's well said.
Yeah, that's very well said. I would say that you're right on the money with that. So.
I mean, I'm not going to mention names because there's no point.
Of course
I could change it anyways. And I love all those guys too.
Yeah.
But that's probably the reality of why it really didn't happen.
But what I thought was interesting is
because they're going to have to kick down some of their friends.
Ed says to me, "Well, can you do something?" And I'm like, I already am doing something. I put out 2 videos where I was basically threatened by, I'm not going to say by who, and they've been up for years. Basically giving a warning about what was happening. And those videos had 80,000 views or more within the first year. And it came up number 1 underneath, when anyone looked up that particular piece of equipment. And it was a pretty big deal. And yeah, I always put my neck on the line. But the thing is, it takes a collective effort to really affect the change that you guys want to affect. So... But anyway, we're here now. I think that I'm really glad that the robot is evolving to the point where, at the very least, if a novice gets their hands on this piece of equipment, the patient's going to be in a much safer environment.
Right, because there's a lot of training involved, and I have to give Restoration Robotics, the company who makes the ARTAS, a lot of credit for being really. On top of the support system that they give to the doctors who get the machine.
Oh, they're
and
proactive.
The training that they provide, and they're very proactive. And they have engineers that are available all around the country that are there within 24 hours. And the support, it's unheard of.
Well, here's what I think.
I'm impressed.
There are guys who actually have called me about whether or not they should get the ARTAS, and their biggest objection is that they have to pay the company $1 a graft. And my first response to them, and just to preface this, I do not.
The doctor's complaint was that, or the patient's complaint?
The doctor's complaint, and I do not make commissions. I do not sell the robot. Everyone knows that I do work on a consulting basis. I'm asked to speak. They come to me and ask for information. on what they think they should do as far as how they could connect better with the consumer, stuff like that. But I also have no equity in the company. I was offered equity in the company. I refused it because I needed to remain objective. But doctors come to me and they say this is one of the things that stops them. And I'm like, are you guys nuts? That's what's going to keep them on top of their game. That's why they're willing to give you the customer support that they give you guys, because they have skin in the game. The better the machine works and the more you guys produce, the more money they make.
Right.
So I think it's a great
thing. Is like their business model is more on the back end than on the front end. I mean, I think that the cost of the machine, they recover their costs and make a little bit, but their model to make money is really as the machines are running, not from the sale of the machine.
But that benefits the physician, and in my view, it benefits the patient, because that machine is always going to be calibrated
to make better results. Better, have the doctors have more capabilities with it. They get more patients, keep the thing running, keep the doctors happy.
I mean, if you wanted to, you could hand the patient, and I think eventually this is going to be the case, a readout, and they're going to know exactly how many grafts were transected, how many attempts were made. I mean, this is something that you hear all these people. I'm not going to mention any names I'm not going to mention anybody in Atlanta or anything like that. But you hear these people, don't laugh, Joe, who will put out these transection rates online, and they're pandering to these poor, vulnerable hair loss sufferers, and they're saying, oh yeah, we get a 1.5%, 2% transection rate. How do you know that? There's no real data. At least with this machine, they know exactly what's happening.
It's hard data. Yeah,
it's hard data.
And what I like about this, and you take the dollar per graft scenario, and I look at it as ensuring the long-term quality of not just the customer support for the doctor, but also the continual improvements that allows. Because, like you said, Dr. Charles, their business model is on the back end, where from what I understand, they're actually taking a lot of the revenue that they're generating and they're turning it back into the company for continuous R&D, and that's why we're seeing. That's why we're seeing such
ridiculous amounts of R&D,
such a crazy linear path into their improvements. I mean, the way that they've been improving this over the past 3 years is far above and beyond what you'll see with any particular method or clinic that's out there right now.
Joe, if you see their facility, it would flip you out. It's like a mini Tesla factory.
They have separate departments that are working on continually taking a look at things that are already ongoing and and redoing them and fixing and making better. And they have another whole thing on stuff they haven't even done yet. It's really impressive.
No,
and a lot of the money they make goes back into R&D, and they're still collecting more money and trying to get more money to invest for R&D, and it's just an ongoing process. It's a pretty impressive company.
And that's the difference between them and a company that makes these vacuum machines, is that they're changing. They're constantly changing to make the machine better, to make the robot better. Whereas these vacuum, I call them vacuum FUE machines, they're making changes to stay ahead of the law.
Well, and again, I didn't say that. That was the original hair transplant mentor, Joe Tillman.
Thank you very much.
Does not reflect. No, but here's the truth. They sell the machine, they unload it, they give people the basic business model on how to make money. They say they can get tax, marketing material, and that's it. And then they move on. So I'm sure there's got to be some customer support, but it's just a different model.
Bare minimum, and it's a model to. It's one of those businesses you say, we got about a 10-year run, and then they're going to shut us down.
Right.
And you try and make as much as you can in the 10 years.
Right. No. This is listen.
It's not a long-term, continual R&D. Evolving and changing, big-time company in the future. Not those other companies are not in the same league.
Look, I said something at the meeting during my talk, and I really believe this. The guys who are resistant to this technology, the guys who are trying to create their own marketing mousetrap, I call it, where they have a better mousetrap than the artist. These resistant guys are going to be part of the past. You guys are part of the future. Now, I'm not saying that you can't go out, and I still listen. I'm still. I think it's important that strip is still available, and that handheld FUE is still available, and that people have these tools in their arsenal when a patient walks in. Because listen, The ARTAS isn't going to work for every single patient at this point. You know, you may be able to do a lot of the heavy lifting, but you're still going to have to go in there by hand for some patients, you know. So having the ability to do that is vital. But you're right. Eventually, the machine is going to be able to do everything as long as it's guided by someone who knows what they're doing.
Right. And, you know, getting back to what Joe asked me about some of the, you know, the concerns, and I think that you touched upon it right there briefly, obviously, is you know, now that they've moved into the site-making portion of it, which is kind of the second phase. You know, the first was just the extractions, and then the second phase is really the site-making capability of the robot. And it's the hairline. So, you know, guys like me who are kind of obsessive compulsive, you know, we use it on some cases, patients who are willing to shave their head. And there's a lot of reasons why there's a benefit in that, but some patients just cannot do that, so those have to be done by hand. And then I think the hairline should be done by hand, even though there is a component in the software that creates like a random pattern of site making along the hairline. If you wanted to use it, you could. I still think that there's almost always going to be the necessity to go in there by hand and do some of it by hand. And then there's some areas on the scalp that it can even do, like if you're talking about a crown, it doesn't do crown recipient sites or site making, and it doesn't do temporal work.
Right.
So these are still areas
recipient sites.
Yeah, that's true. Listen,
you know,
but eventually,
I still do everything myself.
Yeah, but listen, in 5 years, you know, and you're still going to be young. I mean, I think you're younger than me, so you're still in your 40s, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, in 5 years, it's going to be everything's going to change. And I said it during the talk that. Actually, I believe in about 36 months, the entire industry is going to be different. A lot of the old guard, they're just not going to survive.
Right. Well, and I think that there's a handful of, like I said, the good old boys who, you know, were kind of the founding fathers, and you know, I have a lot of respect for them because they without them we wouldn't be where we are right now. And
right.
But
I appreciate
there's a big pack of people that they're all kind of in the same age range, and they're not going to be doing it that much longer. If I was in their age range, I wouldn't be doing it much longer either. In fact, I'm hoping to be retired long before they did.
Well, let me tell you something. I see some of these guys, unless they really love what they do, and I call it hustling hair, because if you're that age and you're still doing this, it's hustling hair because they may have made some mistakes in their lives. Maybe they have 3 or 4 wives, and they have, you know, this tremendous overhead, and they have to keep working.
Right.
But I can tell you this: you're 70 years old, and you're still, you know, breaking your back. You really either have to really love what you're doing, or you're in trouble.
Right, one of two things: either you made some really bad financial decisions,
right,
and or you just really love it, and you don't have a lot of other hobbies, and you just want to keep helping people.
You know, who I think really loves it is I think who really loves it is Bill Rassman. I got to give him his props. I think he just loves. I think he
I too.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't see him being the kind of guy that's going to retire on the golf course. I just don't think he's cut up for that. So I think he's just really into what he does, and he likes to keep busy. And there's good behind that too. And I don't know how much surgery he's doing. I know he's got another young associate with him now, Dr. Pack, and he does some really nice work.
Well, I think he just likes the challenge. He likes the business aspect. He's an inventor, you know. So he likes being around the game.
Right, and he loves going to the meetings and putting in his 2 cents on everything. It's all good.
I was waiting for him to stand up when I was talking.
I know. We're all always waiting for him to stand up. But I respect him. I do. I talk to him all the time, and I still think that he's, you know, one of the guys who's been doing it as long as anybody. And I always say hello to him, and I realize I'm one of the younger guys, and he's always been very nice to me. So I appreciate that. And
well, you and I kind of came up in the industry together. I mean.
We're not around the same time. I mean, I was working with Dr. Shapiro as a young guy back then, and you were really involved with back then.
The Bulb Truth was published in '98, so I was already involved in the industry. So right. So well, listen, Doc, I really appreciate the call. We're going to take some more phone calls, and it was great. It was great seeing you. And
I'm going to make it a point to try and I enjoy the conversation, and I enjoy listening too. So I'm going to try and make a point to be more of a regular on the show.
Yeah, and if you're listening to the program, you're watching the show, and you want to chime in, just call. And you know what you can do? You could text me, and I'll make sure a line is open for you.
That's what I will do. I'll text you and say I'm on listening.
Yeah.
I got something I want to say, or let me help out with that answer that question that someone asked or something like that. Or
absolutely,
I'll try and contribute more, because I think that's going to help everyone. And the more if more of us contributed, I think more good knowledge would be put out there, and we just have a better understanding of what's going on out there.
I agree, Doc. Listen, I really appreciate it. Dr. Glenn Charles, he's an accepted IAHRS member. You can find him through the IAHRS website, which is IAHRS.org, and also charlesmedical.com, right?
CharlesMedicalGroup.com.
CharlesMedicalGroup.com. Okay. All right, Doc, listen, great talking to you, and thanks for calling.
All right, take care, Joe, and you guys have a great day.
All right, man.
You too, Doc.
Bye-bye. 888-659-3727. Let's take another phone call, then I have to take a quick break. I have to take a piss. See who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Hello.
Can you hear me? Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? Who's this?
Hey, great. It's awesome that I got on. Love the show. Listen every week. I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Who is this, and where are you calling from?
My name is Al, and I'm from Houston.
Al from Houston. Welcome to the show, man. So this is your first time calling, I think.
Yeah, no, first time calling.
All right. Well, what can we do for you, man?
So I had a question, maybe a little more up Joe's ballywick. I'm about 7 months out from FUT.
Okay.
I had a surgery. I'm not going to say the surgeon's name, but I had surgery by...
Come on.
No, I don't want to do that.
We'll work on that later. Let's find out the details.
No, it is a leader. No, it's really one of the top guys, and it went really well. I'm actually not one of those people calling to say, "Oh, it was a disaster," and my life is ruined. That's not it at all. It's gone really well. I had a little over 2,000 grafts.
Okay.
I was charitably a Norwood Fogg. Possibly, some people would have called me an early 6.
Okay.
And I'm in my early 40s.
And you had 2,000 grafts.
I had a little over 2,000 grafts, and I had basically creation of a mature hairline on the front and the top, didn't touch the crown.
Right.
Which actually, I don't care that much about the crown. And again, I'm only about 7 months out, but the result has been really good. Like, I'm only 7 months out, but I mean, like, the transformation in my appearance is, you can only call it striking.
Okay.
I love hearing that, by the way. I love hearing those stories.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, I researched for years. I read the boards for years. I mean, I didn't measure twice, cut once. I measured 50 times and cut once. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Yeah, sure.
Right. Okay.
So here's my first question is, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go for number 2.
Okay.
I had FUT. My scar is really good. My scar is really fine. I can feel it more than I can see it. Like, it's hard for me to even see it. And I know where it is. I can kind of feel it with my finger. So my first question is, if you have a second FUT, how likely are you to have a good scar on round 2?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
It's a tough one to answer, but I'll let you answer
no one
it.
can answer it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no definitive answer to it. Is this a multi-part question, or is that just the only question?
Well, I guess there's 2 parts. But
okay.
If you want to do this part, I could say both questions.
Well, no, let me answer that one first, okay? Because it's an important question that people need to understand. As Spencer always says, once you're cut, you're cut. And truer words have never been spoken before when it comes to surgical hair restoration. You had a relatively small procedure. I would call that a moderately sized procedure in today's industry. And you're super happy, and that's fantastic. I love hearing that. But now you're looking at a second one. So if you had the front done, and you're arguably a 6, maybe more likely a 5, that means that you got a lot of area to cover behind the work that was previously done, and you probably have to have work blended into the back of the work that was previously done as well. So there's a nice transition. So
right.
So you have 2 challenges here. Okay. Number 1 is getting enough grafts to satisfy the demand of the recipient area that has yet to be addressed. So in order to do that, you have to go into a donor scalp that has less laxity, higher tension than before you actually started out. So these are the basics of follicular unit strip surgery, otherwise known as FUS or FUT. So the likelihood of you having, let's break this down. The likelihood of you having the same scar is next to zero. And I say that
it would be more prominent.
Yeah. Now the question then becomes how much more prominent, which can't be answered. But all you can do is look at the variables that you have a grasp on. Number one, you've already had a procedure where you had a great outcome. You are over the moon about the results. I think you were saying that your doctor is well known and has a great reputation. So that's good.
He's one of the top kind of 2 or 3 guys you hear most prominently discussed as sort of thought leaders in the industry.
Okay, fair enough. And so all that's great stuff. But if your doctor has any ethics about him, even he will tell you that there's no guarantee that the second scar will be just as good as the first one, because anything else is just not true. You can't guarantee it. Now, in my experience, having worked for some of the world's greatest clinics and currently working with some of the world's greatest clinics, I can tell you with absolute certainty that the likelihood of the scar being the same is pretty low, but the likelihood of it being good and still very acceptable are pretty high. So I think
I'm a pretty good healer, and I'm cutting my hair pretty darn short, and you cannot see it.
No, and that's good. And the other thing is, you said you're in your 40s. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm in my early 40s. Okay,
well, that's also another plus in your favor, because as we age, as we get out of our 30s and into our 40s, the activity of our skin tissue on the cellular level, the reproduction of our skin cells reduces. And so
basically you're saying he's old and he's got loose skin.
Pretty much.
Okay.
I know. I was kind of like, what are you saying, Joe?
Hey, dude, I'm up there. I'm pushing 50 now. I'm 47 this year, so I'm on the downslope. But no, I mean that's just
speak for yourself, dude, man.
Hey, man,
downslope.
Don't go there. No, but no, I mean that's the way it works. I mean your skin metabolism is a little bit slower than it used to be, so that also helps with scar formation. When your metabolism or when your skin activity is at a higher level, there's a higher chance of unsightly scar formation. So I think that you have a good chance of having an acceptable scar going back through the same route that you've already been. Just emphasize that you don't want your doctor to push the limits. You don't want him to stick his heel in the back of your scalp to get the widest strip possible.
Right.
And frankly, if again, and I don't know what you're looking for exactly, but I mean, I wouldn't go way past what you've already had done, and I'd probably even go for smaller procedures.
I'm actually not looking. Yeah, and I suspect that it'll probably be a little smaller. I'm not looking for. Part of me says, if the industry stopped tomorrow, I won. Like, this bugged me for forever, and I got a good result, and I kind of feel like, hey, I did it.
So why? So you have hair greed, man. Why don't you just walk away?
Then walk away. And
because I think that I think that I could look a little better. And again, I'm not trying to look like I'm 20, but I think a little more fullness in the front. I wouldn't change the hairline, but mostly a little more fullness. And I guess, like you were saying, bleed it into the back just a little more might look better, for the next 20, 30 years.
Hold on. Okay, you're talking about the back or doing the front?
No. I'm not going to change the hairline. I'm going to basically thicken in a little bit what I had, and I'm not worried about the crown. The crown is not really on my radar.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about extending into the areas that haven't been touched. So in that case...
No. He'll probably do, like you said, probably blend it a little bit. But again, I really mostly focus on the front and the top.
Yeah, but you're actually taking, in my view, you're taking even more of a risk if that's what you want to do.
And that's what I was going to say, is you're actually taking a bigger risk because you already told us that you're over the moon as far as your result goes now. And you just said that if the industry were to shut down tomorrow, you'd be fine. So, I would actually encourage you to rethink it. And consider saving your $5,000 to $10,000, however much it would cost you to get this done, or at least take more time to think about it. Because, I look at it like this: when you have a strip surgery and you have a great result on the first pass, that's unless you just can't function through the day without going for more surgery, then I encourage people to enjoy what they got and move on. Because every time you go back in, you are taking a bigger risk than the first time or the previous time.
That's interesting.
There are more factors to consider. There are more variables that come into play that the doctor has to deal with. The tension, the potential for increased donor shock because the angles of the hair in the donor zone have actually been distorted due to the strip being taken out, the waist being closed, and then the scar tissue as well. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying don't do this, but I'm just saying, I would rather people enjoy what they've got and move on.
Right.
At the same time, if you are going to have surgery, if you are going to, move into this realm and have more because you do actually have hair greed, then just exercise caution.
But you also have to understand that, and Joe, I don't think you touched on this. I really wasn't paying attention to what you were saying, but if you touched on this, just let me know. But, if you're going into an area that was already transplanted, there is absolutely some, microscopic, scarring around each graft. A lot of guys don't talk about this. So it actually makes it even more difficult to implant grafts in between, especially if it was already tightly packed. And what can happen?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was tightly packed. It was probably average, I would guess.
All right. So you're talking what, like 25 grafts per square centimeter or something like that? Or would you know?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number. I don't know. It was a little over 2,000 grafts.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. It is possible, depending on your doctor, if you go to a guy who's really careful, they can go in between the hairs and not going to transect or damage the already transplanted hairs. But that's already that's also a possibility. Even if you lost 10% of that transplanted hair and you decide to go in and get another 2,000 grafts, yeah, you're going to have overall more bulk, and you're probably going to have an overall better. You might be closer to where you want to be, but you're always taking a risk. And I'm just not. I'm just not a huge fan of it unless, if you said to me, "Hey, look, my doctor did a really good job, but I'm not that happy with the density, and I'm not over the moon, but I know that he did the best that he could with the number of grafts that he did. They all grew and everything looks great, but I want more density." That's not how you came at it. Your words were, your exact words were something to the effect of, "I am over the moon. I am so happy with my result."
Yep.
So I think you said it was like day and night.
It definitely looks good. Yeah, no, it really.
You actually said
my
you win.
appearance and my outlook.
Yeah.
Those are your words. You said "I win," which is I love that expression.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I did. But I liked your expression, hair greed. I never heard that, but as soon as you said that, I was like, huh.
Yeah.
I coined that one like 14 years ago.
That's exactly what it is.
I'm gonna footnote you on that one when I say it.
Go for it. Yeah.
So let me ask you then sort of a related two questions that are sort of related on both what you guys were saying. One is, if you decide you're going to do a second surgery, I will not lie to you. I have a feeling I got one more in me.
Oh, I know. Listen, I know you're doing it. That's why I always tell doctors when they call me up after the show, they're like, "Why do you talk people out of surgery?" I'm like, "You don't have to talk people out of surgery." Surgery sells itself. I just try to provide you guys with the best information and how I would, the advice I would give, a brother. But if a guy wants surgery, they're going to get it.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it is.
So, yeah, I think I got one more in me. So question is, number one, at what point is my donor laxity optimal? Like, there was a lot of discussion on the boards about this week, and nobody really knew. Like, should you go at a year? Are you better off to wait to 18 months? And then the other question I had is, I assume I'll have shock loss in the recipient area. Some of the transplanted hairs from FUT1 will fall out, correct? And then regrow.
It's possible. It really depends.
Right. So those are the two questions: timing on laxity and shock loss in the.
I mean, it depends on the trauma. It depends on the tumescent. How much is used. How what's being used. There's so many different factors. Let Joe answer this because Joe's had 9 hair transplants himself.
A zillion.
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually remember that thread, and I think someone wrote to me last week about this exact issue. It might have been the same person that started the thread. I don't know, but there's no standard answer for when is the donor area at its peak of ripeness, I guess you would say, for the procedure. But most clinics will say anywhere from 8 months onward, the donor zone has recovered enough, and this is something that's very important to remember, and it wasn't mentioned in this thread, the recipient area, all the grafts that were placed before have already sprouted. Because if they haven't, and the doctor goes through and carpet bombs that area again, then any grafts that haven't been broken ground, as it were,
could be transected and damaged.
have been effectively killed.
Yeah.
Right? So they're gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's why. Right. That's why when I hear about people saying that they had another surgery at 6 months, I cringe, because whoever the doctor was did not exercise proper restraint in allowing that patient's previous result to come to fruition. So that said, as far as the donor zone goes, anywhere from 8 months outward, that's the general. I guess that's a general minimum time frame. I like people to wait for a year.
I would never, ever, and I got to put this out there, I would never recommend 8 months. I know doctors will, but
I don't.
I know you don't. But a minimum of a year, I would say 16 months. I mean, you're already there. You're already waiting. Just make sure everything is completed. Make sure everything is grown in. Make sure you're completely healed. Make sure, sometimes it takes 12 months before you actually start to feel the numbness go completely away. Sometimes longer if you had strip surgery.
Right.
Sometimes the nerve endings just aren't connecting. There's so many different issues involved. To me, if you're going to have a second surgery, you wait as long as you can. I don't know if you agree with that, Joe, but
that's the best answer. Wait as long as you can. But if we're going to talk about minimums, I think 12 months is a minimum.
Yes.
But again, each circumstance will be different from the next. So if you do ever have residual numbness, even at 12 months, then yeah, absolutely, give it more time to where it comes back. Same thing with the recipient site. Now, if you have numbness in your recipient site a year later, then something's wrong. There's something
I don't
going
have
on.
any numbness. I was numb for the first couple of months, but I don't have any numbness now.
Right.
And like I said, I'm still. I would be months away from doing number 2, but I was just sort of wondering.
Well, let's put it this way:
figuring out scientifically, is there an optimal time?
Yeah, and I think everyone is different, but I think Joe is right. To me, it's a minimum of 12 months.
Yeah.
Minimum of 12 months. And listen, you sound like you got your head together. You're in a good space. You had a great procedure. We're not trying to talk you out of having another procedure because it may get you into an even better space. But just you have to understand the entire scope and all the possible pitfalls that are involved. Every time you go under the knife, you're taking an extra risk. This is elective surgery.
Right.
You don't need to do it.
Yeah.
That risk compounds
No, you
with
don't.
a subsequent procedure.
There were 2 deaths this year in the field from surgical hair restoration, from hair transplantation. So, I mean...
Did they die from what, infection or the sedation?
Shit happens. I think one guy, was allergic to the lidocaine, and another guy just had a heart condition that was... He got the okay to have surgery by his primary and his cardiologist, but shit just happens, man.
As it tends to do.
Yeah, no kidding.
So,
all right, well,
and listen,
this is really helpful. A lot to think about.
It's not in my best interest to talk people out of surgery, but we got that's what we do. I mean, we're here to give you the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'm telling you guys are like both as good as gold out there. Like you're like the gold standard for what people want for information. So I really appreciate it. I can't believe I got on the show. This is awesome.
Well, I appreciate you calling. Congratulations on your successful hair transplant. I mean, that's stuff that people need to know about because, sadly, what you read on the forums for a lot of the times are the negative experiences.
Right. It's a lot of horror stories.
Yeah, and that's where everyone congregates. That's just the way that it is. If you're upset, you're pissed off, you're going to write about it. That's the way the online world works today. So I'm glad you had a great experience.
Awesome. All right. Well, listen, thank you guys, and I'll be listening.
All right, man. Take care.
Right on. Thanks for calling.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Take care. 888-659-3727. I think I could hold it in for another second or two. Let's take a call, and then I'm going to take a break.
Just use your bottle, man.
Hey, you're right. That's a good idea. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hey, yeah, hi.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
Hey, how are you doing? Who's this, and where are you calling from?
I don't know if you guys remember me or not, but I'm the 16-year-old, well, now 17, the kid from Arizona that called a couple months ago.
How many 16-year-old kids do you think call the show? Actually, not quite a few, but I do remember you. How are you, man?
Doing all right, guys. How you guys been?
Not bad. What's going on?
Hanging in there.
Give us an update. What's happening with you?
Well, I went to my dermatologist and got the scalp biopsy results and all that, and they basically told me that they saw some miniaturization in the hairs, but he said that they also saw some telogen hairs, and he basically, at the end, I wasn't even there for 10 minutes, and he just told me that I had no pattern baldness and I could just choose from Rogaine, and that was it. So I left there pretty depressed, and then I had the option my parents gave me the option to go to look up a doctor to go and find him, like a hair specialist, or I think they're called trichologists. And that's what I decided to do. So I looked up Dr. William Gaunitz from Evolution Hair Loss Institute, and it's like 15 minutes from my house. And
well, William Gaunitz he's a very nice guy, but he's not a doctor.
Yeah, I decided to go to him. I just looked for like offices near me, and that's what came up. So
he's a very nice guy. He's very involved in laser therapy. He provides minoxidil solutions. He's in my view, one of the more reputable guys out there that are providing these services. But I also think that you should probably see a physician who's a hair specialist as well, not just a dermatologist, because the fact that this guy needed to take a biopsy to see that you had miniaturized hair is ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
They actually could use something called the densitometer, and there's all different types. You can actually get your own online if you wanted to. And you can see different areas of miniaturization just by putting this thing on your scalp and someone either looking at it on a monitor, or there are the ones that people can look through directly, kind of like with an eyepiece.
My dermatologist was the one that did the scalp biopsy. Dr. William Gaunitz, he did the barometer when I went there for my first visit a month ago, and I was looking at my scalp under the monitor and stuff like that. So that's the first thing he did.
And just to let you know, again, I got to repeat myself. William Gaunitz, to my knowledge, is not a doctor. He is I think he's a trichologist, but he's definitely in the hair loss business. And I'm glad that at least he had the equipment to show you your miniaturization under magnification, which is really important. I wish your dermatologist would have done that. So what did Mr. Gaunitz suggest for you?
Well, when we went there, he checked me under the microscope and all that, and he basically said I had like a really bad fungus. Like, it looked really, really bad under the scalp, and he said I had like bacteria and like little like parasites like eating at the follicle, and he was just showing me like what they look like, and like he was saying how they looked clear. I don't know if that's actually what they look like or not, but he just said I had a bunch of like bad fungus and stuff like that, and he prescribed me with a bunch of shampoos and a couple herbal DHT blockers and a minoxidil solution. I've been on it for a month, and it was yesterday when I went for my 1 month checkup, and basically said I'm fungus cured, and he kept looking at me under the microscope, and it looked pretty good, but there was also a lot of questions I still had, and I was hoping you guys could some of the answers.
Let me ask you a question. Did your dermatologist suggest that you have any type of fungus on your scalp? Because he did take a biopsy.
Yeah, and he said that he just checked for scarring alopecias. He never mentioned any funguses or anything like that. Well, he had me on. Go ahead. It
would probably be pretty apparent to a dermatologist if you had a fungus or even any type of inflammatory issues with your scalp, even by a visual examination. So, I don't know. I mean, I would suggest that maybe speak to your parents about seeing a third person, maybe getting another opinion, and seeing a real physician who's a hair loss specialist as well. Now, again, this is nothing against Mr. Gonitz. I know he actually has a very good reputation in the field as a trichologist, one of the few. But you know, this is a medical condition, and I really think that you need to get a second opinion from a physician. What do you say, Joe?
No, I agree. You know, I get nothing against this trichologist. I mean, Spencer says he has a good reputation. I'm not familiar with a lot of trichologists, so I can't comment on that. But if your dermatologist took a biopsy, which means that he cut a piece, for the other people are listening or watching, he cut a piece out of your scalp, sent it to a lab, had it analyzed, came back. He's got a sheet that shows everything that's wrong.
Right.
And if fungus wasn't listed as an issue, then in my opinion, it wasn't an issue. Not to mention there are treatments out there, particularly like the one I use called Nizoral, which has 2% ketoconazole that is effective in fighting these types of problematic hair issues. So I don't know. I think that
even the 1% over the counter would have, if it was something that wasn't visually apparent, even the 1% over the counter would have helped.
More than enough.
Yeah.
More than enough. So I think that
and I had
go
really,
see a doctor.
Bad blisters. I had really bad blisters around the scalp, and when I was on Nizoral 2% for about a month, and when I went back for my scalp biopsy, I had been on Nizoral 2% for a month already. And I had really bad flaking, and it just it basically seemed worse. Like I would wash my hair every single day, use it as provided, and I'd wash it all off, rinse it all off. My mom was the one washing my hair, and just every single day, I just had more and more dandruff all around the scalp.
How big were these flakes? Were they small or were they fairly big?
No, yeah, they were fairly big. And then when I would pull some of them out, I'd grab 3-4 hairs with them.
Okay, all right. So here's something else to consider. Okay, and you can talk to a doctor about this. And I'm not a doctor. I'm just telling you about my own experience. I went through the exact same damn thing. It scared the living hell out of me. And let me tell you, I make my living in this industry because of my hair restoration, because of my experience, my journey. And when you're in my position and you start seeing this happening, where you have big flakes coming out of your scalp with hair attached, it's easy to lose your mind, and I almost did. And what I did was I did two things. I found a shampoo that's no longer available, but I have a replacement. It's called Tardan. I don't know if it's available in Arizona, but you can look it up online. It's Tardan. It's a tar-based dandruff and psoriasis shampoo. But then also I changed my diet.
Yeah.
And what I did is I cut out as much sugar as possible. And I don't mean sugar that you pour in your coffee. I mean sugar that's in ketchup. I mean sugar that's in fruit juice. Sugar that's in granola bars. Sugar that's everywhere.
Now, one thing that I want to ask before you finish your thought was, were you actually diagnosed with seborrheic dermatitis, or did the doctor say you have psoriasis or anything of that nature?
The dermatologist, he pulled up the topic of seborrheic dermatitis because I've always had dandruff issues for since I was 12 years old, but I was using Head and Shoulders for years and I've never had hair loss or anything like that. And he told me that under these circumstances, how I got sick in Mexico, dropped 20 pounds, and all this stuff happened, and the constant shedding. He told me that I'm too young for seborrheic dermatitis, and he never pulled up psoriasis. He never brought that up.
Well, it sounds like seborrheic dermatitis.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it can actually affect anywhere where you have sebaceous glands, but it usually is around the scalp and the face and around the nose area.
Yeah, that was one of the things I'm worried about because I'm still shedding hair, but it's global, all around the scalp, which is really concerning me because my dad's in World War 5 and all my grandparents and all, they all have hair in the back of their heads perfectly fine. My grandpa's 83 and he still has all his hair behind his head, and I'm just thinking, diffuse unpatterned hair loss, no future treatments, not able to get anything like that. So I'm just worried of the constant shedding all around the scalp, not just the top.
Well, I'm convinced, and I don't want to speak for Spencer, but I'm convinced that
I agree with your diet theory.
As a species, we're fed a lot of things based on marketing that are not good for us, and among those, or chiefly among those, is sugar. Sugar is not something that we naturally have a lot of in our diet, but it is in everything. We are being poisoned. This is my honest opinion. We're being poisoned by all the sugar that's out there in all the food that we're pushed or that we're forced to eat. So I highly encourage you to seriously consider looking at all the labels of the food that you eat. Don't load up on junk. Don't load up on just crap food. I mean, have your pizza every once in a while, but eat as clean as possible. Eat organic meats. Eat lots of vegetables. Try to avoid sugar as much as possible. Drink lots of water, and in 3 months, you'll probably, not a promise, but probably see a difference in the quality of your hair, but more importantly, in the health of your scalp. I did this; it worked for me, so that's why I'm a big believer in this. It might not do anything for you, but it won't hurt, and you'll be healthier. So give it a shot.
Well, there is a film. It's called That Sugar Film. You should check it out. You can see it. I think you can find it on Netflix and Amazon and probably Hulu. I don't know about Hulu, but definitely Netflix and Amazon. And it really does put the whole sugar – let me put the camera on me – the whole sugar phenomenon into perspective. And basically this guy decided to eat what was considered healthy food, granola and all the stuff that you see in the healthy section, but it's all filled with basically sugar, corn syrup, and different, just grains and stuff that turn into sugar very quickly in your body. And the guy became sick very quickly, including dermatological issues. Yeah. So there's no doubt in my mind that what Joe is saying is right. And as a 16-year-old kid, believe me, I remember what I used to eat as a kid. As an adult, to this day, I mean, I'm a lot more careful, obviously, but I mean, I know what it does to my body. I know what it does to my skin. I know what it's done to my scalp. And there's no doubt, when I wrote the original The Bald Truth, I wrote an entire chapter on diet and hair loss. It was unheard of at the time. And I was at that point in my life, I was following something called the zone diet, where you're balancing your you're eating more low glycemic index carbohydrates as opposed to high glycemic carbohydrates, and balancing your fat, your protein, and your low glycemic carbs, staying away from bread and all that stuff. I believed that it changed my life, and I actually had the author of the diet, Barry Sears, write a page for me in my book. And all of a sudden, within a year, people were putting out hair loss diets and hair loss diet pills and all this shit based on what I wrote. But there's no doubt in my mind that that changed my life when I was going through the initial throes of my hair loss. So I think Joe is right. I think you should really, learn more about what you're eating and try to avoid the real starchy foods, bread, pizza, all that shit that turns directly into sugar.
Yeah. And you can look up online. I did a quick search. I forgot his name. It might be the guy you're talking about. Is Robert Lustig, Lustig. He's the one that's really bringing this sugar issue to the forefront on YouTube. There's a lot of lectures that he gives, and he gives some shocking information about how much sugar we're taking in every year.
Those guys like Damien something or other, I forget his last name, but he's a youngish guy, and he was in Australia and went on this. All granola bars, all the healthy stuff that's supposed to be good for you. And he basically his blood pressure went through the roof. He was pre-diabetic. I mean, just within a month.
Yeah. Viewer 15980 said something perfect. Don't eat anything that has a label to read.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I like that. Yeah.
But I'm telling you, man, if you eat clean, stick to, lean meats, even fatty meats. I think saturated fat is fine. I think it's all overhyped. Eggs, fish, meat, poultry, fruits and vegetables, juices, stuff like that. Shit that's hard to eat every day. It really is. Because it's so much easier just to grab a pizza. You're probably in high school now, so you're eating high school lunches or you're going out to lunch. You're hanging out and eating McDonald's. I mean, what's your diet like?
Well, now since we went to the internal doctor and everything else from the inside's all good, so 20 pounds, I'm regaining all of that now. I was at 163 2 months ago, and my depression and all that cleared up, so I decided to recuperate myself, and now I'm back up to 170. But I'm trying to eat a lot, so I'm eating a lot of food to try to regain weight. So now that I know that nothing's bad internally, now I'm just sort of like worried about my health and like my hair. So
okay, well, what are you eating? What kind of food are you eating? Are you eating
a lot of meat, a lot of chicken,
okay,
a lot of beef, and a lot of carbohydrates. A lot of them.
Yeah, but are you eating like rice and beans type of carbohydrates?
Yeah, rice and beans.
Okay.
Rice and beans.
You might want to just stick to the beans and remove the rice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm having a lot of bread too and stuff like that.
And stay away from the bread. Now, if you're trying to gain weight, that's all great stuff to gain weight. You're going to gain a lot of weight, but it's not going to be lean body mass. You know, I guess at your age it could be, especially if you're exercising and stuff. I guess when you're 16, it really doesn't matter what you eat. You can put on muscle because you have so much testosterone. But as far as the inflammatory issues and the, seborrheic dermatitis, I believe Joe is absolutely right. If you can cut out those complex carbs, those high glycemic index carbohydrates, you're probably going to see a vast improvement in the condition. And again, we're not doctors.
Like the thing that worries me is that now I have like no flaking whatsoever. Like after when I went to with Dr. William, it's been a month later and I have no flaking or anything like that, but I'm still shedding a lot of hair. Not a lot, but it's probably gone down like 25% in the past month, but I'm still like, I have no more like flaking, nothing like that. I just have I'm just worried about why I'm still like shedding hairs all around the scalp. Probably still is because like my scalp is healing, but I don't know that yet.
Well, here's the thing: you are getting some help, and again, I think as far as trichologists go, Mr. Gonitz is one of the more forthright guys out there, and I have known people that he's actually helped. So I was never really a big fan of trichologists, and through the American Hair Loss Association and through my writings over the years, I've been pretty harsh on that entire end of the industry. But things have changed because they actually have medications that they're able to prescribe and that they're able to, over-the-counter stuff basically that they concoct and they can give you and stuff that works. The minoxidil-based solutions and low-level laser light therapy, which, some people really believe in, including some of the doctors who we have a lot of respect for. So at least they have some actual tools in their that's a tough word for me, armamentarium. Can you say that for me?
Armamentarium.
Yeah, that's right. And I think he's actually a pretty good guy. But I'm telling you, if you can, ask your parents if they can send you got to see another physician and look for someone who's a true hair loss specialist. So where are you located?
Phoenix, Arizona. You're
in Phoenix. You might want to speak to Scott Alexander's in Phoenix, right?
Scottsdale.
Scottsdale. Who's in Phoenix? Is that Sharon Keene?
Yeah, Sharon Keene.
Or she's in Tulsa? Tulsa.
Oklahoma.
That's Oklahoma.
Tucson.
She's either in Tucson or I don't think she's that far from you. But there's a couple of people in Arizona who are with the IAHRS. They understand hair loss. They're not going to try to push a hair transplant on you. They will give you an honest assessment of what's going on. And they're also going to know what to look for. So you can go to IAHRS.org, look up Sharon Keene, look up Dr. Scott Alexander, and see if you could, make an appointment with them. Even have a Skype consultation. Ask them what's going on. You could always pick up you could pick up a densitometer online, plug it into your computer, and you can show them your scalp. People do that.
Yeah, because when I went with Dr. William, he looked at me under the scalp and he told me I've lost 50% density in 7 months that I've been losing my hair, and it has. I don't feel like I've lost 50% of my hair, but in 7 months.
I'm going to say this one more time, kiddo. Unless he's gone to medical school since I've met the guy, he's not a doctor.
Yeah.
He is a trichologist.
All right.
So just you need to know that for yourself, just so because there is a difference.
It does sound impressive, though.
Yeah, no, but there is a difference, and I want to make sure that you get the best help possible. Again, the guy really believes in what he's doing, and maybe he is helping you to some degree. I don't know, but it sounds like you're still dealing with hair loss, so you should definitely seek out another opinion. And most of these, at least in the hair transplant field, most of these consultations will be free, even if they're just going to give you advice or a prescription or tell you what you need to do.
Yeah.
All right, so if I were to contact some of the doctors that you're that you're telling me about here in Scottsdale or one of the doctors here that I won't know if it's free or not until I actually like contact them. But
yeah, but if it costs $100, it's going to be a lot. I mean, they're not going to charge you a lot for a consultation. You can let them know that, you know, you're 16 years old, you heard about them through the Bald Truth, you just want to get some advice, you're really in a bad spot, and I promise you they're going to give you the best advice they can, and they probably won't charge you a dime.
All right. Yeah, because I'm like, my depression, all that's cleared up. Like, I have a beautiful girlfriend. She's very supportive. It's just like, now I'm just sort of like, I want to do this like for myself. I just want to get better for myself.
Well, I listen, you sound like you're in a much better position than the last time you called. So just, you know, keep staying positive. I'm glad you have a girlfriend. Just seek the advice of another doctor. That's all I'm telling you. Call us back in a couple of weeks. Let us know how things are going for you, okay?
All right. You guys keep doing what you guys are doing. You guys are really helping out a lot of people, guys.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you. You too.
All right, I got to take a piss. 888-659-3727. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a phone call or two. I'm Spencer Kobren here with Joe Tillman, who is live in our TBT studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm in Los Angeles. We'll be right back after this.
He's an international best-selling author, a contributing editor for Consumer Digest magazine, and the host of the longest-running reality radio show for men. I'd say he's the man.
The truth shall set you free!
It's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome back. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. You are watching and listening to The Bald Truth. This is the Hair Loss Show. My ear is clogged, which is a real pain in the ass when you're doing radio. The guy laughing is our Bald Truth contributor, live in TBT Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. The original hair transplant mentor, Joe Tillman.
Thank you very much.
It's really weird. Like it's everything's echoing, and I can't really get my volume straight in my head. So you let me know if I'm screaming.
I will.
All right.
You got my word.
So I'm glad Dr. Alexander called in. Always great to hear him. It was great seeing him at the conference. That fucking dude is fit.
Who?
I'm sorry. I mean, it was great to see Scott Alexander, too. Glenn Charles.
Yeah.
It was great to see Dr. Glenn Charles. That guy is fit, man.
He is.
I'm drinking too much Budweiser on the show.
Apparently. Your man crush is coming out. No, he's I saw him. Well, I saw him in Chicago at the meeting in September of last year, and then I saw him in San Francisco as well, 2013. And the first time I saw him was in 2004 when the conference was in Vancouver. He doesn't look any different.
No, he doesn't age.
He does not age.
I don't know if he's on human growth hormone. I don't know what the fuck he's taking.
It's working.
It's working.
Absolutely.
And he may have grown an inch, actually, since the last time I saw him.
He may have, and he's a hell of a nice guy on top of it, and a great surgeon. So
no, I like him a lot, and
he's a perfect storm.
And I hope he does call in more often, because I think it's important that I want all the doctors to call in. I mean, Alan Bauman takes advantage of it because he understands how important it is to get the message out there. He's one of the few guys who are part of what we do that calls in at least once a month. Well, maybe not once a month, but at least once every 2 months.
I'd say more often than others.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. I got to get my ears all fucked up. All right. 888-659-3727. A lot of calls, and I'm waiting for a phone call. I'm checking my caller ID, but I'm not sure if this is the right person, but let me see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from? Hello. Guy got stage fright. All right. You know what? I'm gonna wait. Let me see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Yes, hi. This is Clive Jones. I'm calling from New York.
Clive, what can I do for you, man?
Hey, Clive.
I just like you're Mr. Hair. You know it all, man.
Say again, Clive. I don't understand. You have a lot of molasses happening.
You are all about hair. When I think about hair, I think about you, especially when it's just falling out.
That's what we do, man. A lot of molasses in your voice, though, Clive. So you got to speak a little more clearly. What's happening? What can I do for you, dude?
Well, let me just go ahead and ask my question here now.
All right.
This is my wife. We've been having with my having children. She's been taking these various hormones. And she also has stress. and she's going to have some keratin treatments, and let's just say you fucked her hair up.
Okay.
I don't know how to put it technically, but
that's pretty
fucked up now.
That's actually the way. That's how we say it technically here on the show. You got fucked up hair. That is the correct technical term. Well, if she's taking hormones, if she's taking progesterone, estrogen, and she's changing her hormone imbalance, she's definitely at a fragile state where she could actually exacerbate hair loss or cause something called telogen effluvium. And she could end up going through a tremendous shed just by the hormonal changes. Same thing happens when women get on birth control pills. So it really depends on the combination of hormones.
She's going through a shed, like a poodle does?
Yes.
Could be.
Like a poodle, exactly. Except this is being...
I thought it was a poodle there, and I found out it was her. We got to do something about that.
This is... You know what's fucked up? I know who this guy is. That's what's fucked up about this call.
That is fucked up. God bless him.
There's something fucked up with what? My explanation of all this?
Yeah, I could barely understand a word you're saying, except that it sounds like your wife is having some issues with her hair.
You got that straight.
And kudos to you for calling in to help her out with this.
Yeah. No, but honestly, Clive, if that's what's happening, if she's taking hormones and she's trying to get pregnant and all that stuff, I mean, that's classic when women are trying to to change their hormonal balance in order to induce pregnancy. So it should actually reverse itself. Once you guys do conceive and she does become pregnant and she gets off of those hormones, what's going to happen is her estrogen is actually going to rise naturally, and there's a protective element that happens when a woman is pregnant, and they actually have the fullest hair of their lives when they actually are pregnant. But then what happens, unfortunately...
Hold the line there. Now, I like that stuff to go on natural, but I'm about to give her a little boost now. Put some hair on her head.
There's nothing you can do at this point, man. As long as she's taking the...
It's not a booster?
No.
Like a special vitamin? You got a secret vitamin she could take, like a milkshake or something like that, or something she can sprinkle on her head?
There actually, sadly, there is a guy that sells a milkshake, and he's a hair transplant doctor in Florida, and you can find his milkshake online, and that's really a sad fact about this industry. But yeah, dude, if you
don't want no bullshit shake now.
Well, it's all going to be bullshit, man. It's all going to be bullshit. All I can tell you is, as long as she's continuing to take those hormones, and if it's affecting her hair, it's going to continue as long as she's on it.